Hello everyone, I hope that you're doing great. Welcome to our regular Thursday lectures. As some of you may already know, my name is Victoria and I'm the Outreach Coordinator for Education USA. Maybe some of you haven't heard of us yet, so let me give you a brief introduction. We are part of the global network of the US Department of State, which consists of over 435 international student advising centers in more than 180 countries. As the official source on US higher education, we of course offer accurate, comprehensive, and unbiased information about opportunities to study at accredited colleges and universities in the United States. And today we're going to cover a very exciting topic, namely applying to undergraduate programs with a common application. You may already know that each US university and college sets its own admission standards. Usually, students need to submit separate applications to each US program. That seems like a lot of work, right? Well, today, our wonderful guest speaker, university representative, senior outreach officer at New York University Abu Dhabi, Justin Van Dyke, is going to help you learn more about the common application platform that allows you to fill out one online application that you can then send out to multiple schools. The common application is, of course, used by more than 800 colleges across the United States, and for admission processes, it can be a lifesaver and something that will just help you really streamline the process of applying to US colleges and make it so much easier. Justin, it's wonderful to have you with us. I'm so delighted you could make it. And just a brief word to our listeners today. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us with any of the questions you may have. I'll be more than happy to help you and answer you, as well as our wonderful guest speaker, Justin. So, Justin, without further ado, the floor is yours. Please take it away.
Great. Thanks so much, Victoria, and good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be back speaking with you again, and I'm really excited to share more about this application platform and my university. And I think, there are a lot of different guides to this application process and ways to go through it. And I think really the best way to show you how this works is to actually take you along and walk you through the Common App. So what I'm going to do from here on out is I'm going to share, of course, a little bit about my university first, and then I'm actually going to take you directly into the Common App and show you all of the different parts and how to complete this application, and of course take questions from you. If any of you have already started your Common application and you have questions, I'll of course be happy to take those questions at the end. Also, I have a registration link on a QR code. If you're interested in learning more about New York University, Abu Dhabi campus, or any of the campuses, you can scan that QR code and sign up for more information about that. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and jump over to the website here, so you can see the NYU Abu Dhabi website. Very briefly, for those of you who haven't heard of New York University before, and this may sound a little bit confusing that I'm talking about New York and Abu Dhabi. I'll make it maybe even a little bit more confusing and explain that we're also in Shanghai and 12 other global centers. So New York University really is a global network. When students apply, they're asked to consider 3 different campuses, one in New York, one in Abu Dhabi, one in Shanghai. It's all the same university, it's all the same degree, but each campus is a little bit different in terms of what it has to offer, in terms of majors and areas of study, your classes, the students who are at this campus. We have lots of Ukrainian students on campus as well. So it's a really exciting place, a very international campus, and something that, if you're looking to do something very international, to attend a US university, but also get to be in different parts of the world, this is a really unique prospect. So whatever your university you're applying to, the first stop, of course, is always their website, and to go in and check out admissions. And we'll just do this, go ahead and do this with NYU Abu Dhabi, go to the undergraduate studies. And you can see here there's information on applying and requesting information. And of course, when you go to apply, you see here the first stop is the common application. You can also find the key dates and deadlines and information about the selection process. This is, of course, information that you'll want to look up for every US university that you're applying to. But I'll just go ahead and jump into the common application from here. So as Victoria indicated, this common application is, as its name suggests, common to a large group of universities, mostly US universities and a few international universities. And it's a way to apply to a number of universities using only one application. So you can fill out the application once and send it out to multiple universities. The first step, though, is to find the universities that you're applying to. Again, not every US university will have this platform, but many do, including NYU. And so to see if a school is on the Common App, you can just go to College Search, and then we will search for New York University. Again, whether you're applying to the Abu Dhabi campus or Shanghai or New York, it's all going to be under New York University. And once you find it and add it, it will show up under My Colleges. So here under this form, you'll see the colleges that you've selected. And we'll come back to this in a second. And you'll also have your dashboard where you can monitor the progress in all of your applications and what you filled out. So I'll just go ahead and jump over to the Common App tab. So we can walk through this. Again, I won't go into depth and everything. Most of this is fairly straightforward, asking for personal information like your name and family background and all of those things. But I'll just make a few stops as I go through this application to point out things that might be a little bit confusing or you might have questions on. So of course, the personal information is pretty straightforward. But you'll also note here there are a few questions on things like demographics that can be a bit US centric. So you'll note as you move through here, see there are questions about like US Armed Forces and different ethnicities and things. So if you don't have this information or you're not comfortable replying to it, you can always skip through this. One thing you'll note as you move through the common application, you'll have the continue button. And you'll also see that there's some questions that have a red star next to them. Those are the ones that are required, that you must complete. If they don't have them, then you can skip them. They're not required questions. So oftentimes I know students will get stuck on something or they'll find something that just doesn't make sense for their curriculum. And if that's the case and there's not a red star, in most cases, you're fine just to skip on through that. There are also questions on geography and nationality and visas. And so, again, this will depend on which campus you're applying to, but again, most of you are probably applying to US universities. So it will ask you about things like your US visa. And in fact, one of our colleagues at Education USA has already sent me a question about this, about whether you're applying for a new or different US visa. So this question is generally asking you if you have a visa. So let's say you already have a tourist visa or something like that, but then you would be applying for a student visa, you can indicate that here. So if you've never had a US visa before, you can click yes to this question. Or if you're going to apply for a different kind of visa, you can also click yes to this question and select the type that it will be. Again, for most students, this will be the student visa, but again, you'll before you actually go through that application process, of course, you'll work with your university to make sure you know which visa to apply for. All of this information is really just to give the university a heads up for your current visa status. Finally, we also have a section for a Common App fee waiver. So if the application fee for the Common App would be a financial burden for you, you can request this fee waiver. And here you'll also see this bulleted list of a lot of different ways to qualify this that are pretty US centric. So if you don't understand these or you're not sure what they mean, the important thing to look for is at the very bottom here, the last answer is providing a statement from a school official or a counselor. This is for 99% of students. This is the way you will request a fee waiver. You'll just say that someone of authority in your life, whether it's your school psychologist or advisor, someone will just confirm that that you do indeed have need of a fee waiver. So you don't need to send bank accounts or all kinds of proof. You can just say, yes, I meet these requirements, and type your name to sign this, and then click continue, and that's all you need to do to request that fee waiver. With NYU, once you've done that, there's nothing else you need to do. You can automatically assume you've been approved for that if you don't hear back from the university. And likewise, your counselor or whoever is helping you through the application process will just also click a box saying that they confirm that this is true. So it's a pretty straightforward process. If you do need a fee waiver, if the application fee would be a financial burden, you can request it by clicking here. So we'll move on to the next section of the Common App. And again, you'll see as you click continue, it will automatically move you through this process. Again, I'll skip the family section because this is all pretty straightforward. For the education section, so this is where you will list your current high school. And you'll notice that most schools will automatically populate. So if you search for this, so I encourage students to go ahead and search for their high school name. So for example, you'll see this will automatically populate. And if you don't see your school, I would encourage you to try a few times and try a few different spellings. Sometimes it's in your native language or a different language to see if you can find it. And if you can find it automatically populate, everything will connect. If not, you can just go ahead and click, I don't see my high school in this list, and manually enter in the information. But I always encourage you to see if you can find your high school first, instead of creating multiple copies of the same school. So do keep that in mind when you're looking up your high school. Of course, we'll ask you your date of entry. So this is when you started at this high school, and when you will graduate from the school, and the graduate date. If you've had some kind of disruption in your education or within school, so if you've graduated early or late, or you've taken time off or a gap year or something like this, universities want to know about this as well. So please do indicate this here. Check one of these boxes, and you'll see there's several moments in the Common App for you to provide a little bit more detail. And this is one of those moments. So anytime you see one of these boxes, please do take the time to give us this additional information. That's really my message for the day. As you're going through the Common App, the more context you can give us about your situation, the better it will help us as a university to understand your application. So for example, if you are graduating early or taking a gap year, if you're taking a gap year, tell us what you're doing. If you're doing exciting things, or if something has impacted you in some way, this will help us understand your application a little bit more. So do make sure to provide context here. If you've attended more than one high school, this is including things like a year abroad. So if you're a Flex alumni, or you've done some other kind of exchange, or again, I know there are a lot of Ukrainian students, or maybe in other schools now outside of Ukraine, you can indicate that here. So this will just be the earlier school. So the first one I listed is the one that you'll be graduating from, the one that you're at now. But if you had another school previously, you can indicate that here. And again, fill in all the same information, explain what happened, why you moved from school to school, and just give us that context. It doesn't have to be a lot of information, but if there's something that impacted you in some way, this can really help us have a deeper understanding of your academic history. Likewise, for colleges and universities, if you've attended university for a year, or let's say you did some kind of summer program or done coursework either after school or at the same time, you can list this here. And it works the same way as the school section. So you can go in and find your school or your university and explain what it was. In this case, for most of you, you won't have earned a degree since you're applying as undergrads, but it does ask that information. And the next section is on grades. And honestly, I feel like this is probably the section that we get the most questions on, because the questions are pretty specific to US high schools. And, at NYU Abu Dhabi, we have students from over 120 different countries, which means 120 different, education systems and grading scales and things like that. So we're used to seeing a lot of different things. So don't worry if when you see this, and this doesn't fit with your system, that's completely fine. NYU and most other universities will look at your grades within your own context of your own school. I think the only question that's really required here is your graduating class size. Again, Tetjana was nice enough to forward some questions that students already have about this. So when they talk about graduating class size, so this is all of the other students in your school that will be graduating from high school at the same time. So I know a lot of times when you refer to a class, it may just be the cohort of students who are kind of in your group. But this is really referring to everyone in your school who is graduating in the same year. So again, it doesn't have to be exact. We just want to get an idea of how big that group of students is. For class rank reporting, again, we know not every school does this. So if there's no class rank reporting or you don't know how to answer this question, you can just click none. And you'll notice that these questions about grades are one of a number of areas where you're giving self-reported information. So when we ask you to give your GPA here, of course, this is information that we also need to have confirmed by someone from your school or your advisor. If you don't know this yet or you don't have access to it, again, you don't have to put it here. It does help us to understand if you already know your GPA, if you have a GPA, to enter it here. You'll see there's a scale. So this would be basically, what kind of scale your grading system is. So if it's, out of 100 points or 20 or any of these other things, you can choose this here. Again, if you don't know these answers to these questions about being weighted or unweighted, you can leave it blank and we'll still get the official information from your school. The next section in academics is about your current or most recent year courses. So this is just a quick way to highlight to us the classes that you're taking this year, that you're taking right now. Again, this just lets us get an overview. When we start reading your application, we'll know right away the classes that you're taking. So you can choose the subject. There's a pretty wide range, but obviously not everything. So if something doesn't fit in, you can just type other and then put in the course name. And then the level. So if your school has a level, either like a standard or higher level, or if you're doing APs or IBs or any of these other international curricula, you can indicate that here. You can see, again, there's a pretty wide range of things to indicate. But again, if this doesn't apply to you at all, if you're taking a chemistry class and it's just called chemistry, that's completely fine. You can just put NA for not applicable. The next section is on honors. So this is a place to list awards that you've received. And this really can come in a lot of different contexts. We do really encourage you to provide us this information. This can be something that is, just within your school or within your town or on a national or even international level. And these are primarily academic prizes, but and academic achievements. But if you have anything, like an Olympiad or something like that, you can indicate it here. And I've given a few examples here. There's some bad examples and some good examples. This first one is not so great. We see the student wrote that they won the XYZ prize, which I'm sure is very impressive, but unfortunately, I don't know what XYZ is. So one thing I always want to remind students is that, we have an idea of what a lot of different international awards and things are, but not all of them. So do make sure that you spell out any acronyms and give us some additional context. Also indicate when it took place. You'll notice that it gives grades 9, 10, 11, and 12. We know that doesn't always align with the same years of high school and other schools. So this just indicates the last 4 years of secondary school. So if your last year of secondary school is 13, you'll choose 12 here. Sorry if it's a little bit confusing in this way, but basically this is the way you'll indicate when you participated in that. And as I mentioned before, you can tell us the level at which you participated. You can also indicate any community-based organizations you've worked with. You can scroll through them and find a really big list of these kinds of programs. A lot of these are based mostly in the US, but you will note that there's Education USA here, somewhere down here. So if you've worked with Education USA, if you're a member of the competitive college club or something like that, we want to know about this. This is great to hear. So if this applies to you, make sure to choose this. If you have an advisor, you can list their name here and their contact. So again, we know that not all of these organizations are listed here, but if you do have someone that you've worked with, you can give them a shout out here. The last section in the academic section or the education section is on future plans. So this lets us know when you're applying or when you will apply to start the university. We also ask what degree you're interested in, and also a career interest. Sometimes students get to this thing and they think, okay, I already have to decide what job I'm going to do or what major I'm going to be in. And that's not the case. This is just to let us know something you might be interested in doing. NYU, like a lot of other liberal arts and sciences institutions, allow students to apply undecided. So if you don't know yet, don't worry, you're not making a commitment here. This is just a chance to express a career interest. So the next tab we'll move on to is testing. Oops, let's see, I ran into a little bit of an error. Let's see if I can track back here. Okay, great. So the testing section is the area where you can provide self-reported results. Again, important academic information like grades and GPAs and tests also needs to come officially from your school, from your counselor or advisor, and or from a testing agency. But this is just a way for you to directly tell us. So when we open up your application, we'll know right away what test you're considering submitting. I won't go into a lot of detail here because this varies from university to university, but for NYU, we are test optional. That means we do not require you to submit a test. If you do have a test, be it, one of these international tests like SAT or ACT, or you're doing an IB program, or if you have national exams. In the past, we've accepted ZNOs from Ukraine. I know now that there's a transition to another system that's in the works, so I don't know that it's listed here. But the message here is if you want to submit a test and self-report it, you can indicate that here. The same thing for English language tests. NYU does require some kind of English language test, and we accept a wide range of them: TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo, Cambridge, all of those. So if you have those scores and you want to report them to us in this unofficial way, you can do it from this tab here. So you'll just answer yes to this first question. And so this is where you'll be able to choose between things like SAT, AP, IB, and the English tests. If you have a national exam, again, if you're a student who's maybe you're outside Ukraine and you'll, if you're in Germany and you're going to take an Abitur and you want to submit those results, you can click yes here. And you will see the senior secondary leaving examinations. And this is where you will be able to indicate how many tests you're taking. I think usually it's 3 or 4. And again, of course, we know ZNOs aren't here anymore, but whatever examination board it will be, you can indicate. You can also pull from this list and see there things like the baccalaureate and the potrібно and all of these other things. Obviously not everything in the world, but there's a pretty big list here, and you can see if your Matura or whatever it is listed, and then self-report those scores there. So I know this can get a little bit tricky at times and you might have questions. So I promise to come back to this at the end if you have questions about how to submit tests and which ones are accepted. I'll definitely come back to this section. The next section is on activities. So this is where you will tell us literally anything you do outside of the classroom that's important to you. I know a lot of times when you hear extracurricular activities, you automatically think that it has to be, sports or music or, being class president, student government, and doing these kinds of things. All of these things are great. And if you've participated in these activities, please be sure to share them. But for NYU and many other universities, this really is literally anything that you do outside of the classroom, where you pursue something that's important to you and have some kind of accomplishment. So I encourage you all, especially students who've had their education disrupted and daily life disrupted in a way where there are things that you just can't do anymore. Keep an open mind in this section, and just think about the things that you do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, that are important to you, and will show us about a bit about who you are, what's important to you, and what you've been able to accomplish. I would say overall, we're really just looking to see that there are activities or things that are important to you, and that you pursue them, and that you have something to show for it, whether it's actually an award or a leadership position or just something that you've created on your own, whether it's a hobby or something else. So when you come to this section, if you feel like, oh, I don't feel like I've done very much, think a little bit more broadly about those activities. Again, at the end of the day, for NYU and many other universities, this section is more about quality rather than quantity. So you'll see here that you have the space to report up to 10 activities. So this is not a challenge to fill all of those things up. Don't feel like you have to fill all of them up. I encourage students to start with their very best. So start with the thing that you feel that you're most proud of, that you want to share first. Again, that award or that leadership position, whatever that is. And please tell us more than just saying XYZ Club. We want to hear what this is. If we look at this intentionally bad example here, we see I'm not going to know quite what this is, what you do at the XYZ Club, or what happens at XYZ meetings. I also would see that you just participated in it for 1 year, and you did it for a school break, and you spent about an hour a week for 5 weeks. That's really not going to be an impressive thing to us. Whereas if we go down and look at the next activity and we see that you are a student mentor at some kind of science center, and you really give us the context here. So make sure when we ask you to describe the activity, I know it's only 150 characters, but tell us what it was. What did you do in this activity? What kind of leadership role did you take on? Really, what was it? And again, we want to see that you've actively participated in this, that you haven't just shown up one time. So here, showing that you did this every year of high school, that you did it during school break, and you spent all of these hours per week, and you want to continue on at university. That's going to be an activity that really impresses us. So keep this in mind. And as I mentioned before, if there's something that's not a direct activity, if it's something like family responsibilities, that if you have younger siblings you have to take care of, you can let us know about this as well. In this case, saying that you take care of 2 younger brothers, you take them to football practice, cook them dinner, you have these kinds of family responsibilities to help them with their homework and these kinds of things as well. Again, give us this kind of context. These are things that we want to know about your extracurricular activities. So again, 7 or there are 10 activities available. You can use this space. If you have more than that, congratulations. I can show you in a little bit where else to share those things. But again, we're more interested in quantity or in quality rather than quantity. So give us the things you're most proud of first. So the next section that I'll talk about, and the final section that's in the Common App. So you'll remember now that everything that we've been talking about so far, all of these things that you've been filling out, will go to all of the universities that you're applying to through this application. So you want to make sure that it's not specific to one university, or just keep in mind that it's information that you'll share widely with all the universities that you're applying to. The writing section, the main part here is the personal essay. I'm going to give you a really brief introduction to this, but if you haven't heard about this essay before, I would encourage you to. There's actually another link, another video on YouTube where I do a whole other hour session just on the essay. It's that important, so I won't be able to talk that long today, obviously, but this is a really key part of the application, and it's a very different piece of writing that I think most most students have done before. So it's something to put a little bit more thought in. And in fact, when I'm telling students what this essay is, it's almost easier to tell you what this is not. So this is not an academic paper. So this is not a piece of writing that you would write for your biology class or your history class. This is also not a CV. This is not the place to kind of just list off, all of your accomplishments. Of course, we want to hear those, but that's another part of the application. It's also not a letter of motivation or why you want to apply to this university. That is information that a lot of universities want to know, including NYU, but there's another place for it. So that's not the place here. Really, this should not be anything we can find elsewhere in the application. So this is a place to share something new, something that we wouldn't know about you from just, looking at this list of activities or seeing your grades or seeing what school you went to. This is a chance to share something a little bit more personal, a little bit more creative. It's kind of like creating a self-portrait in a way. So I encourage you to, again, read up a little bit more about it and put some thought into it. This is not something that you want to do just the night before your application is due. Do a little bit more reflecting before you take this on. You'll see here that there are several prompts. There's 6 prompts that you can choose from. So you can choose one of these and respond to it, including this last one, the 7th, is an essay on a topic of your choice. So if none of these seem to fit for you, you can write an essay on your own topic. But of course, you want to be careful that this essay, again, is not super academic or just a list of activities or something that you're just reusing from class. You want to make sure that this is going to showcase your personal qualities and things that you want admissions to know about you. So do keep that in mind as you answer this essay. And finally, there's an additional information section here at the bottom. So there are 2 things. One still relates to the pandemic. If any part of your high school progress has been impacted by this in any way, you can share this here and let us know what it was. Don't feel like it has to be like a huge major thing, like you weren't able to go to school for a whole year or something like this. It doesn't have to be a major disruption, just anything that you feel has impacted you in some way, or just additional information that you want us to know about your situation. This is related specifically to the pandemic. You'll also note that below this, there's even another opportunity to share more. So if there's something that's not COVID related, obviously I know in Ukraine now there are a lot of other disruptions going on and things that are impacting you physically, emotionally, sociologically, academically. So please feel free to share those things and include them in this part of the application. As you've probably figured out by now, when we review applications, we're not just looking at one test score or one activity. We really are reviewing you as a whole person. So if there's any important information that you want us to know that you haven't been able to find another place to put in the Common App, this is the place to share it, including, if you have a brief CV that you wanted to share, there's a Google Docs button, so you can upload that. Please don't send, certificates and a lot of other things. This should be very brief. We don't need, an award from, ping pong camp when you were in 5th grade or something like that. Everything you're putting in as your activities, we trust you on the honor code that you are telling us the truth that you accomplished these things. So we don't need any backup activities. This section is just to give us a brief survey if you have something that didn't fit into the other activities. So this is all for the Common App part of the section. So that's all of the information that will go to all of the universities that you're applying to. But you're not done quite yet. You'll see there's a My Colleges section. So most universities will have a few other questions that are specific to them that they want to ask you. And of course, NYU is no different. We actually have quite a few to ask you, depending on which campus you're applying to and which program you're interested in. So you'll come through here and you'll see for each university, you can find contact information, the website, links to the admissions office, and application deadlines, and all kinds of other information. So do make sure that you review this. Also, you can see the requirements, if there are requirements about letters of recommendation, and essays, the fees, all of those kinds of things. So make sure you read through this information. And then you will find two sections. One is on recommenders. So this is where you will choose people to write a letter of recommendation. For NYU, we only require one letter of recommendation, and it can come from really anyone of importance or authority in your life. So anyone who you feel knows you really well and can speak to your overall academic performance and personal qualities. So you will invite recommenders here. Basically what you do is you input their name and email address, and then you click invite, and then this person will automatically receive their own login to come into the other side of your application and complete those questions about your school. So they'll ask for the official documents, so your grades from your last 3 or 4 years of secondary school. They will also ask for any test scores or also the letter of recommendation, those kinds of things. You'll see here there's a whole list of reports. And I know there was already a question that came in about these reports. You can see that there's a school report. So this is just overall information about your school. There's the recommendation. There are also optional reports if something else happens after you submit your application, if they want to send additional information from your school. There's also a mid-year report. So once your first term grades come in, if those are there. If you don't have grades come in the mid-year, you can always just resubmit the other grades that you had previously. And then there's a final report that will contain your final grades and diploma and all of those kinds of things. But really what I want to emphasize here is that I know in many schools in Ukraine and other places, you don't have someone who's dedicated to the job of being a school counselor. That's completely fine. It doesn't have to be someone who specifically has that title or that role. This can be anyone at your school who can submit documents on your behalf, that can submit official documents like your grades and your letter of recommendation. I encourage you just to think of someone who will be able to navigate this process, maybe an English teacher or someone obviously who has a good comprehension of English and can complete this process and provide these details. So again, if you have questions about who that should be, I'm always happy to ask, or I'm always happy to answer that and help you work through it. And of course, your advisors at Education USA can help you identify who this person would be. But again, if you come to this point and you don't know who can do this, we can help you identify that person. And of course, it goes without saying that you should think about this early on in your application process. You don't want to come at them, a day before your application due and say, oh, I need this extra form to be filled out, and I need a letter of recommendation. Make sure that you give your recommender plenty of time to write the letter of recommendation and figure out all these parts, because there are a lot of tasks to do and it can be a little bit complicated. But again, the universities and Education USA are there to help you and your counselor navigate this whole process. So if you ever get stuck, of course, you can always reach out to us. So again, once you've invited that person to write your letter of recommendation and submit your school forms, you'll be able to monitor this process here. And then finally, when you are ready to submit your application, you will see the review and submit button. So once you've done this, it will give you a PDF preview, so you can go through and just make sure that everything is up to date and accurate, and actually see what the university is going to see. Obviously, we can't see this yet because I haven't completed all of the questions here, but this is where you'll be able to submit the application. Also, one part I just skipped over is under the questions section. So these are the questions that are specific to NYU. You will also see these for other universities. I mentioned before that we also have another essay that's about your interest in applying, and I'll talk about that in a second. But you'll note here, especially for NYU, since we have 3 campuses, we'll ask you which campus is your primary campus of interest. And if you're interested in more than one, you can apply to more than one, and even all 3. So if you're interested in all 3 campuses, you can apply in this way. I won't spend too much time in the rest of this because it's pretty straightforward. We'll ask about your academics. If you're going to submit a test like the SAT, this is where you will tell us that you're doing that. NYU also covers or also requires the self-reported academic record, which is a way for you to send us a self-reported copy of your transcripts, which I could spend a whole another hour on. I promise I won't do that. But this is just for you to find out a little bit more information on that and acknowledge that you'll be completing that. Also that your school will be completing the school report, and that you'll be completing a letter of recommendation. So this is just a reminder to you and to let us know that you understand that these are required parts of the application that you will be submitting. And I'll skip over the context and family, since that's also pretty straightforward. And then under writing, so this is a new essay that NYU has introduced this year. This is completely optional. I want to emphasize this. You're not required to do this, but if you do want to explain a little bit more about your connection to the university, you can answer this question. So lots of universities will have questions that are similar to this. But again, if you're really interested in NYU and you're motivated, this is a really great way for you to let us know about that, and also for yourself to just kind of explore these reasons of why you're applying to NYU. And so you'll see here that we've given you a number of quotes from past commencement speakers at NYU and honorary degree recipients, and you can choose one of them and just reply to it and explain why this connects to you and why this connects to NYU. We say that we're looking for peacemakers, change makers, global citizens, boundary breakers, creative and innovators, and we ask you to choose one of these and let us know why it inspires you, and how it connects again to the university and these experiences that you imagine having on campus, and the things that are important to you as a student and as someone who is excited to apply to the university. So again, this is completely optional. If you feel like you're really pressed for time, don't let this discourage you from submitting your application. Or if you feel like, another thing I'll mention is that we do also give you a chance to choose your own quote. So if there's someone else from NYU or connected to the university in some way that you want to explain, why this quote inspires you and connects you with NYU, you can put that information here. And then finally, under additional information, I think there are just a few more things. This is on disciplinary history. Again, this is not a really major thing. This is all pretty straightforward. So again, as I mentioned before, once you've done it, once you've answered all these questions, you'll have the submit button here, and you'll be able to click it and send on your application, and you'll be able to monitor all of the parts from your dashboard. So once you've completed your part of the application, again, you'll be able to see with your recommenders, once they've completed those parts, and you'll be able to see that it's submitted here. Do make sure you check that all of the parts there and they've been submitted. If there's something that's a little bit late, if you have test scores that will maybe coming like a few days later or a week later, or there's something off, just write us an email and let us know. Again, I know it feels a little bit like sending messages into the void when you write to a generic admissions address, but do know that we read all of those and we consider them and try to reply as fast as possible. But if there's something, missing, or you need a little bit more time, just give us a heads up and let us know. So if you're the person writing your letter of recommendation might be a little bit late, you can let us know. Another thing I want to mention is there are also some things that you can change in the NYU application portal once you submit it. So if you change your mind about whether you're applying to a certain major or you're undecided, or there's a whole host of things that you can still change after you've submitted your application. So if you're in a panic and feel like you've done something wrong and want to change it, you'll also receive a link to your application portal where you can go in and change some things. So with all that being said, I'll go ahead and open up the floor for questions. I know I've been talking for a little while, so I want to make sure to give you a chance to ask your questions.
Thank you so much, Justin, for a wonderful presentation. I highly enjoyed it, and I think I speak for all of the students here with us today. You shared some wonderful insights into the Common Application platform, and I'm sure that it will be of use to a lot of our students. So as you've said, let's go over to the questions. And we've got Ukrainian students wondering whether recommendation letters have to be sent through Common App, or can they be directly sent by a teacher or a mentor to the university or college they're applying to?
That's a great question. So they should be sent through the Common App. So there's a place when your recommender is sent that invitation, they'll receive a login to go in and submit that letter. That being said, if there is something that goes wrong and it's kind of last minute, and the Common App doesn't seem to be working, for NYU, you can always send that letter directly to admissions. Not you, but the counselor. So if your counselor has an official school email address, or your recommender has an official address either, they should send it from their side. Again, it's important to note that these recommendation letters should be confidential. It's a way for your counselor or recommender to give a candid response, and provide the full context in their letter. So it should be coming from them, not from you. But yeah, that's totally fine. We prefer through the Common App, so everything is one place. But if you do have an emergency and it's not working, your counselor can send it to the admissions email address from their official address.
Thank you so much for your answer, and thank you to students with us today. And we've got another question from a student regarding the topic of the essay. And the student is wondering, can we include small jokes that are connected to the topic of the essay, or would that be considered inappropriate?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a personal essay, so it's supposed to be creative and grab our attention. And so, if you're a funny person, by all means, you can use comedy. If you're not such a funny person, maybe it's not the time to try stand up. So I would say don't force things that don't feel natural to you. But by all means, feel free to be casual. It should be in your own voice. I would say the same things goes for more serious topics. If you've had something that's kind of emotional or really important to you and you want to share that very personal thing, it's also fine to do that as well. But again, just make sure that it's in your voice and you're not using it as like a gimmick. So you're not telling jokes just to tell jokes, or not telling it something that's really emotional just to kind of provoke emotion from people. So again, that's not something that happens a lot, but just keep that in mind. Make sure that you're not using it as some kind of gimmick or trick to try and grab attention.
Thank you so much for your answer and for sharing your perspective on essays for the common application. So we've got another question, and the student is wondering, should they share their experience in summer camps abroad that were held in national universities, so for USA and Ireland specific?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can indicate this in, if it was a university or a school, you can put that as, list that as another school in the academic section. If it was some kind of summer camp or something outside of that, then that's a great place to put in the extracurricular activities.
Thank you so much for your answer and for sharing your insights. And we've got another question from Bella. Bella, thank you so much for being with us today. And Bella is wondering about transcripts. Namely, should she include transcripts on the Common App or send them directly to university?
So the transcripts should come from the school through the Common App. So basically, your advisor or your counselor, whoever that is that you've invited, in their side of the Common App, there will be a place where they can upload PDF files, and I think it's up to 4 files. So for you as a student, it can be like one scan, that's your grade from your last 3 or 4 years of secondary school. Another one could be a national exam or whatever it is, but they should come through there. Was there a second part to that question? Sorry, I can't remember.
So should Bella send the transcript on Common App or send it directly to a university?
Yeah, so it should go through the Common App, but also some kind of the same case with the other letter of recommendation. If your counselor is struggling with the Common App or uploading something in some way, then they can send it directly to admissions from their official counselor email address. And again, other universities will have different policies on this. This is really just in kind of a, an emergency situation where you can't have it sent otherwise. And I would say make sure not to send physical copies. We do still accept physical applications if you want to fill out everything physically and send it, but it's all or nothing. Like if you're going to send a paper application, every single part of it needs to be in paper and needs to be sent by mail to New York City. Again, I don't know that people still do that, but if that's the case, sending in those letters and those transcripts physically would need to be done in that way.
Thank you so much for your answer, Justin. Just to follow up on Bella's question, I was wondering about students who have been displaced internally or outside of Ukraine and maybe only have like photographs or scans of their transcripts, and the school is in an occupied area, so no counselors or teachers are currently available to send out transcripts. Can they send out transcripts themselves, or do they need to reach out to, let's say, a teacher at a different school, or maybe to an Education USA advisor to do it for them?
That's a great question. So in most of those cases, those will be sent by the counselor or advisor at your current school. So if you've been displaced, at another school, or you're working with an advisor in some way, then basically it's the same thing that happens if students have had multiple schools. Your current counselor and the school that you will graduate from will take all of those past documents and upload them in their part of the Common App. So if you have those sent to them, they can upload those. And yeah, if there are any other extenuating circumstances where that doesn't work, you can just write to the university and they can let you know what to do.
Thank you so much for your answer and for sharing these tips for like not maybe typical situations. So we've got another question from Veronica, and Veronica is wondering, if I took a gap year after school, do I fill in the section where I need to submit a mid-year school report? What might the application process look like for a person who has taken a gap year?
Great. So it will depend on when you're applying, I guess, before or after your gap year. If you're applying before your gap year, of course, that mid-year report and all of those grades will come in, whatever is available from your school. If you're applying after your gap year, then you'll just automatically go to the final report. So when your counselor is filling that out, they will be, the graduation date will be there, and we'll automatically let them send the final transcripts and all of that information. And just one tip about the gap year, if you really and again, this is for NYU, but really you can apply on either side of a gap year. If you really want to apply first and if you're admitted, you can request to defer. If that's what you want to do. But also you can apply after the gap year. I think for most students, this is the best way to do it because, well, for one, most students are doing something interesting in their gap year and universities want to hear about that. And also, when you're doing your gap year, you have a little bit more time to concentrate on your application and it's a little less stress. So in most cases, we really recommend that second scenario, that you give yourself the time and share what happened in the gap year. But if that doesn't work for some reason, of course, you're welcome to apply and then request to defer later.
Thank you so much for your answer, Justin. And we've got another student with us, Anastasia. Anastasia, thank you so much for joining our session. And Anastasia is wondering if she can help a teacher to write a letter of recommendation. The teacher doesn't know English and doesn't have a lot of experience in writing letters of recommendation.
Great questions. So a lot of universities, NYU included, have programming for counselors. I myself also hold workshops for counselors on how to write letters of recommendation and walk through this process, because we know this is a very US specific thing, the kinds of things we ask for in recommendation letters and the styles. So this is training that we give to counselors. Of course, this should come from us as a university and not from students. So I would encourage you to reach out to the universities, reach out to us, and we can help with that, including with the language barrier. That's another case where Education USA is fantastic with helping with these kinds of things to kind of bridge that language gap. to kind of help them understand this process and go through it. And I would also say that, especially for NYU, given the number of countries that applications come from, we're very aware that there are a lot of different writing styles and abilities of English and these things. So, if your advisor writes a letter and something that is a very different style or just gives bullet points or these kinds of things, we completely understand. This isn't going to tank your application for some reason. We understand that people write in different styles and are not familiar with this. So that's something we come into this process understanding. And I would also say for the language issue, if you have, let's say you feel like your biology teacher knows you best and they're going to write a really good letter, but they don't speak English, you can always have them write that letter in Ukrainian or your native language, and then have that translated by an English teacher or someone within your school, and just have like an unofficial or a school stamp on it. It doesn't have to go to a translation agency, but you can do that as well. So don't feel like you are obligated to pick someone to write a letter of recommendation who writes English very well. It can come in another language. We'll just need the original and the translation.
Thank you so much for your answer, Justin. And I would just like to add, Anastasia, you can always sign up for a free consultation with Education USA, and we will help you and guide you through the process of approaching letters of recommendation and what are maybe some of the things you need to discuss with your teacher beforehand, and what are some of the activities or maybe achievements you would like your teacher to highlight or at least mention in their letter of recommendation, even possible. And of course, we are also here for you to guide you through the process of applying to US colleges and universities and make this application process as smooth as possible. So please do not hesitate to reach out. All of our consultation is free, and we are of course ready to provide you with the materials and resources that will not only help you, but will also make sure that you succeed in your path to your study. So thank you so much for your question, and we are going on to the next question. And the next question we've got is actually from Anastasia as well. So Anastasia, thank you for being so active. And Anastasia is wondering about motivation letters and what are some of the things that you're looking for in students and that are good to mention in a motivation essay.
So I think one important thing about this motivation essay, for any university that kind of asks you, why us? Why are you applying to our university? There's a second question that's kind of built into that, and it's why you as well. We want to know about the match. So when universities ask why you want to apply to them or why you're interested in them, it's important not to just repeat things back at them that they already know. A lot of times students will write essays where they say, I want to come to your university because you're ranked #1 in blah, blah, blah. You have this program and you're in this location and whatever, which are all great things. But they're things that we already know about ourselves. So it's important for you to also tell us why this is so important for you. I think in some instances, it's kind of like writing a love letter. You're saying, okay, here are all the reasons why we're such a great match. Here are the things that are important to me. If I had a ranking system and said, this is why your university ranks #1 because it has this and this and this. Explain why that's so important to you. Why you feel like it's, a university where you can do all the things that you want to do, why there's no other university that makes such a good match. So I think that's a great way to stand out when you're thinking about this and explaining why you're motivated to apply to a particular university, to make it not just about them, but make it about that connection between both you and the institution.
Thank you so much, Justin, for sharing your expertise with the students and for providing such an in-depth look into the common application essay and just the process of applying to and completing the common application. So to all of our students with us, I would just like to say, please do not hesitate to reach out to Education USA with any of your questions. We'll be more than happy to help you and provide you with all the resources you require, as well as guide you through the process of completing the common application. And I would just like to say, please do not doubt yourself. Do not have things hold you back on your way to studying in the United States. If you persevere, if you believe in yourself, then everything is possible and you can make your dream of studying at a US college or university a reality. So stay safe, stay with Education USA, and if there are any more questions you have, you can always reach out to an advisor. We wish you the best of luck on your journey to US study, and I will be more than happy to see you next Thursday for our new lectures. So stay safe and stay with Education USA. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.